let's talk about Kyle Shanahan's future with the 49ers. Earlier in the show, you said his stock is way down. How far? And what does he need to do this year to bring it back?
He needs to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And when I say that, I mean, he had 2 goals going into yesterday: develop Trey Lance and win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Now one of those goals is off the table for the year. There'll be no developing Trey Lance. So now it comes down to win the Super Bowl. And guess what? Now you got a veteran quarterback. You still have a suitable backup quarterback, in my opinion, and you've got a stacked roster. So now the expectations for the Super Bowl go up. And I'd love to have seen, because I heard somebody say that the 49ers odds on winning the Super Bowl went up after this injury.
Okay.
That would be interesting. But I think those are the 2 goals entering the year: develop Trey. And if you can't develop Trey, win the Super Bowl. If you can't win the Super Bowl, at least develop Trey. Now, if this season's going to be productive, they're not going to develop Trey. They need to contend for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because the future is totally murky. We have no idea who the quarterback will be next year.
Or what the roster will look like.
No idea. And if they need a new quarterback, it's unclear that Kyle Shanahan is the right guy to pick him and coach him. So for Kyle Shanahan to justify his – because look, good coach, but as you said, this is a top 3 roster, right? I'm thinking –
your best player is 34.
I'm thinking a lot of coaches could win a Super Bowl with this roster. Bill Belichick, Sean McVay, Sean Payton. There are coaches who could win. Kyle, you got it. You've had it for a few years. Don't mess this up. You've been given a great team. You can't figure out the quarterback spot. You can't keep people healthy. You need to win this year. Otherwise, there are good coaches who might want your job. I think in the past, Niner fans are always like, oh, we don't want to go back to the Chip Kelly days. Man, hold on. If you get rid of Shanahan, it's John Lynch leading the search, not Trent Baalke. And this is a very good team. I think you could get someone like Sean Payton who's interested. And Sean Payton is a champion who could probably figure out the quarterback position. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I won't get into speculating who's next, because who knows? I mean, there might be somebody we're not even thinking of that is a phenomenal prospect. I haven't even given that any thought. But I think ultimately, look at this team. George Kittle he's not old, but he might as well be old. He might as well be old because he gets hurt. He gets hurt a lot like an old guy. Jimmy Ward, his best days are right now. Trent Williams, his best days are right now. Deebo Samuel, the style of play that he plays, his best football is being played right now. The best players on their team are in their go years right now. So, yeah, absolutely. They have to contend for a Super Bowl. And when I say contend, that means they got to wind up in the conference title game and preferably win it. If they don't wind up in the NFC Championship game, there is no way anybody can say with a straight face this has been a productive, good year. To me, you have to appear in the NFC Championship game, and to have it be a successful year and to have it be a real successful year, you got to advance beyond that game.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to look like the Niners version of Mark Jackson. Like, he can get him to a certain spot, but he's always going to be his own worst enemy at the end. So if the Niners have a top-level Super Bowl roster and everyone agrees, and there are a lot of really high-level coaches who want to coach this team, and here's the kicker. No one says fire Kyle Shanahan. That's because, of course, he would get a job right away. What's so not interesting about this situation is the Niners don't have a first-round pick next year. They need one. They might need to draft a quarterback. There might be a good one available. How can they get a first-round pick? Trade Kyle Shanahan. He is a trade chip. And I'm not saying you have to. If he wins the Super Bowl, keep Kyle Shanahan. But if he's not what you want and you think you can get someone better, is it like, would you rather have so-and-so who's won a Super Bowl plus a first-round pick or Kyle? That's a good decision to make. And Jed needs to feel powerful right now. He's in a good spot. He's got a good team with a good roster. Don't be beholden to Kyle if he's not good enough.
Well, and then maybe it's time to have a real frank discussion about where you're at, where the franchise is at, what everybody's goals are, and how to achieve those goals. Who knows? Maybe the best goal or the best move for the 49ers is after Minnesota falls short again, trade Trey in some package for Kirk Cousins and picks. Now you got Trey back in the state of Minnesota where he's a hero and they've got a young team and they can dream the dream of Lance to Jefferson, and Kyle can get his handpicked quarterback and get down the road. I mean, that I'm just thinking of what's a solution that may be a win-win. Maybe that's a win-win. Maybe Trey gets to play in his home state and Kyle gets his quarterback and maybe a pick or two along the way, and
what
everybody
is Trey
moves
Lance's
on.
trade value? Coming off 3 years on the bench and a serious a broken ankle. What is his trade value really? I mean, Kyle really messed up. He really, really messed up.
I mean, I gotta think after watching Dak come back that he won't. It's a serious injury, but I don't think it's going to diminish the kid's career. It's not
Dak
like
was proven. Trey hasn't played. I mean,
No,
this
I know.
is all
I
very
know.
bad. Yeah.
I mean, Trey, I don't think Trey. There's always, we talked about this many times. There's every time you come into the NFL, there's a race at the quarterback spot, especially. Can you learn what to do before you get physically beat up and like you're diminished physically? I don't think this injury is going to diminish Trey physically, but man, it ain't going to help. It's going to, and obviously, it's going to delay his development.
It delays his development. That's what I'm saying. So next year, is he going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Which team is going to say, you know what, we want Trey Lance coming off 3 years on the bench and a serious injury to be our starting quarterback on faith? When the Niners would, I mean, I just don't know. I feel so bad for him. He might
in
have
some ways, I like Trey, and I think I would stay with Trey, but I could see where if you moved him, whoever gets him, there's a lot less pressure because they didn't invest in this big trade up to get him, and maybe it would be best for him to move on. I mean, I'm just saying,
3 first-round picks for him, and now you're going to trade low and trade him away for they wouldn't take the L on Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're going to they won't they can't. It's probably the smart move not to do that, to stay with Trey. But I'm just saying, let's just say, if Jed came to Kyle and said, "Hey, look, Kyle, love you. You've done a lot of good things, but you got a year. You got 2 years to make it happen." Maybe he doesn't want to invest those 2 years into quarterbacks that he's not sure of. Maybe he says, you know what, if I only got 2 years, I don't care about value. Give me a quarterback I actually believe in, and we'll go from there. And we know he believes in Kirk Cousins. That's all I'm saying. I just feel like he picked Trey, right? I mean, he's had his choice.
Did he? I mean, did he? Or did the organization pick Trey? I don't know. He says he did.